where the truth gets clear. Every voice matters, every story's heard here. From home to the headline, she's breaking it down. Clarity and courage, that's how justice sounds. Order in her court, no matter the scene. From love and the law to what's on your screen. Family, fun, and the world we chase. A breezy up, bullet justice in its place. Where we are. Every word, every view. Justice isn't just served, it's tailored for you.
Welcome to Order in Her Court. I am your host, Obrizia Bullard, where family law meets compassion, meets clarity, and meets straight talk. Today we are here with our special guest, Miss Keli Hazel. Good morning, Miss Hazel.
Good morning.
And how are you?
I am fabulous today.
Well, thank you for joining us. I want to start by introducing you to our audience, a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Thank you, Obrizia. I am so excited to be here. And a little bit about myself. I am actually a financial planner and a CPA and a behavioral financial advisor. And I'll explain a little bit more about the behavioral financial advisor later on. But more importantly, I have gone through a divorce myself. And having the CPA background and going through a divorce, I really, prior to my divorce, I had left all the financial matters up to my husband. Mm-hmm. And even though I was a CPA, it was still very difficult for me from a financial perspective going through the divorce. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So after I went through the divorce or during the process, I realized that there's probably a lot of women out there that have done the same thing, left the finances up to their spouse and had no clue what to do when they were considering or contemplating a divorce and actually going through a divorce. So I felt that was my calling or my mission was to help women, kind of educate them and help them through the process. So now I do divorce financial planning for people who are contemplating or going through divorce.
So you are already a CPA when you went through the divorce.
Correct.
And you still had the struggles.
I did because I was a stay-at-home mom. I had left the workforce. Mm-hmm. I was a stay-at-home mom, kind of forgot all of that stuff.
Right.
And really just focused on raising my boys and bringing it all back when, I didn't know where we had our accounts or anything like that. I was pretty naive when it came to what our assets were.
So you were managing other people's financial accounts but kind of was oblivious to your own.
Well, I wasn't working at the time. So I was a CPA, and then I was a stay-at-home mom, got divorced in that time frame when I was still a stay-at-home mom. And then after my boys were a certain age, then I decided that I needed to basically get licensed and be able to help women get through this process that needed to go through the process, at least as well as they could, because it's a difficult time. It's very stressful. It's very, there's a lot of emotions.
Right.
And, they just need somebody to stand by their side and guide them.
So what do you think is one of the biggest mistakes that individuals make financially? So they know that a divorce is coming. They can feel it. What do you think that they need to start preparing for?
Well, they need to have a good handle on their expenses. So their current expenses, and then kind of think about the expenses that will be post-divorce, right? Because you need to make sure, number one, you have the means to take care of yourself after the divorce. Mm-hmm. So one of the biggest mistakes, I would say, is thinking that all assets are created equal, because they're not. So when you're going through the divorce, for example, let's say, the husband wants the house and, you're going to take his IRA and he's going to take the savings account. Well, the IRA will have some tax implications to it. So it might not be equal once you factor in the tax implications.
So let's talk about those assets, right? So a lot of times what I see as a family law attorney, and I'm talking to my potential client and I say, hey, these are marital assets. And people say, what is that? What are assets? So tell us, what is considered an asset?
Okay. So start with your bank accounts. So checking account, savings account are assets. Any type of investment account you might have, computer shares account, some other type of stock fund that you might have. It would be obviously your home would be an asset. Your retirement accounts. If you have a 401k at work, a pension at work, which often gets forgotten, a traditional IRA, a Roth IRA, and even the vehicles, cars, if you have rental property together, that's going to be an asset. So there's all kinds of, there's hard assets and there's just more the monetary assets.
So all assets, are they going to have some type of value to them?
Most every asset should, absolutely. The one that probably is the most questionable would be a vehicle, because vehicles obviously depreciate pretty quickly.
Right.
There's not a lot of value once you drive it off the lot. You start to lose value.
Right.
So I would say that might be the only one that doesn't. But, if you're driving, if one spouse is driving a beat up car that, has no value at all, and the other one has a Lincoln Navigator, I mean, that's a big disparity there.
Right.
This one's going to have some value. This one is not.
Right.
So we have to make it equal somehow.
So you would say one of the first things financially when a person is going through divorce is knowing what you have.
Absolutely. Knowing what you have, knowing what your expenses are, and knowing where things are. So one of the things that I like to tell people that are contemplating or going through divorce that say they've left everything up to their significant other, their spouse, is go back and make copies of everything. Anything that has a number associated with it, make a copy. Tax returns, right? A couple years prior tax returns you need to have. Anything, life insurance policies, everything that has a number associated with it, make a copy.
Now, what would you tell someone looking back when you were in a similar situation? How could they do a better job, or what would you have told yourself then in doing a better job in the preparation of it?
Well, even further back than that, I would have been more involved in our finances along the way.
So even if you're not thinking about divorce,
Correct.
Just being in the know.
Correct. And I say that too because, I have friends of mine who are happily married, have happy, healthy relationships, but they have no clue.
Right.
They have no clue what they have, what their IDs are, their passwords, even what type of accounts they have. And I was like, you at least need to know what you have and where it is.
And let me tell you, that's important.
Yeah.
Because as an attorney, what I sometimes see, even outside of the family law arena, is what if your spouse passed away?
Yep.
And then you don't know where any of the assets are. You don't know where to pay a car note or the mortgage company to notify. You don't know who to contact and for what. And so just that knowledge, I guess, is the first step is just knowing.
Yes, absolutely. I always say that. What if your spouse dropped dead tomorrow? You know, what would you do? Where would you turn? They're like, I don't know. I'd come to you.
So one thing that I guess we can definitely tell our audience that got to be more informed.
Absolutely.
And it's not informed just in the bad times when you're going through a divorce. It's informed in general.
Right. Be involved, be informed, and know what you have. That's probably one of the most important things.
Now, once we figure out what those assets are, a financial planner or CPA, can they help in the budgeting and learning how to manage those assets post-divorce?
So can a financial planner, is that what you're asking? Absolutely. So I'm kind of unique in that respect. So I'm a financial planner and I help all kinds of people, whether they're going through a divorce or not. But then I have a passion or a heart for helping the people that are going through a divorce. So
now let me ask you this.
Sure.
And this may be a very laughable question. Is a CPA and a financial planner the same thing?
No, not at all.
See?
No. So, and it's not laughable.
Some people, I don't think genuinely I knew there is a difference. I assumed every CPA is a financial planner.
No.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
CPAs are primarily do tax returns, right? They do proactive tax planning and tax returns. A financial planner, and that's kind of where I'm unique. I started out as a CPA, did that for 10 years, took a little break, like I told you earlier, to raise my boys, and then I got into financial planning. So I'm a little unique in that respect because I bring that whole tax perspective into play into my financial planning. So most financial planners or financial advisors basically are investment management type advisors, and they do financial planning, but they can't give tax advice where I can.
Now, how do each of those roles individually affect an individual going through a divorce? So when you're having on your CPA hat, what are you thinking about compared to when you have on your financial planning hat?
So the CPA hat kind of is part of my financial planning. So
Okay.
not all financial planners, but my financial planning, where everything I do and anything I recommend, I make sure I'm looking at the tax consequences of it. I'm making sure I'm looking at their overall tax picture. You know, what tax brackets are they in? What would this do to their tax bracket? Would it bump them up or would it lower them down? So again, that's kind of just part of the financial planning piece.
So you really get a 2-for-1 with you.
Yes,
Because
absolutely.
you're able to understand the tax consequences that the divorce may leave you in. Now, what are some of those tax consequences?
So like I mentioned before, not all assets are created equal. So let's take an IRA, a 401k. Those are qualified accounts. And all that means is taxes have not been paid yet on those accounts. So when you start to withdraw the money, then you will have to pay tax. More than likely, well, for sure you'll have to pay federal tax, more than likely state tax, but there are some exceptions there. And then potentially you may have to pay an early withdrawal penalty if you take it out too early, before the age of 59 and a half. So for instance, the IRA is tax qualified, so you haven't paid taxes yet. Now, if one person takes the IRA and the other one takes let's say a Roth IRA, well, a Roth IRA, if done correctly, you won't ever have to pay taxes on that. So to me, that's not equal.
In the divorce, you don't really know which one you may end up with if you have to go before a judge, right? Because the judge may give one person one type of investment and then another person. But you play a part in giving advice and a solution of what's going to be the better argument, right?
Yes, yeah. So the way I like to have this work is when somebody is going through a divorce or contemplating a divorce, I should say, and they want to do it amicably, which I advise. I did my divorce amicably, which was, totally a blessing. So glad we did that. We had 3 young boys.
Yes.
And it just made all the difference in the world. We kept the harmony, the peace,
Yes.
and we just worked everything out. So the way I like to work, and my ideal client would be a couple that wants to get divorced, do it amicably. They would come to me first. I would help them determine their marital division of property. What I would suggest they split and they keep, who keeps what and who keeps the other. And then I will also help them with a post-divorce budget.
Okay.
So what is it going to cost them to live separately, because they've been living together. And
Okay.
That's a totally different picture. Then I'll also give them some suggestions on a starting point for alimony and the dollar amount as well as the term.
Now, alimony. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Sure.
Because when they come to you, there's some considerations of which spouse is going to need help. So if you have a wife that's been a stay-at-home mom who hasn't worked in, 12 years, she can't just immediately move out and start over. So the legal purpose of alimony is to be rehabilitative, to help the individual get on their feet. How do you determine as a financial planner and what a person needs to be able to get back on their feet?
So it really boils down to what the budget looks like. And I work
Okay.
very closely with both the husband and the wife to come up with a realistic budget on what is it going to take for them to live separately. And that's kind of my starting point for alimony. Now, obviously, the child support, as you know, is just a calculation. So
Right.
that's pretty simple. That's non-negotiable. But alimony is. So if the husband has a 6-figure job and the wife's been a stay-at-home mom for 12, 15 years, there might be a little bit, they might go up a little bit more in the alimony to give her that time or that buffer to get herself back on her feet.
Right,
To
right.
to get the skills that she might need to be employable again, to get out and find a job, to make sure there is childcare for those kids. So I kind of factor all that in. It really just, each couple's basically unique. So I just factor all those in when I'm.
So when you have an individual that comes to you and say, Miss Hazel, I don't know where to begin. All I know is, we've been married for X amount of years. I don't even know what the average rent is. I don't know what it's going to take me to be able to start financially. Are you able to walk them through that process? What does that look like?
I do. I help them basically almost do like a market research. Let's take a look at the apartments that are close to the area you want to live, you know,
Right.
or maybe where your kids go to school, right? That's always important. They don't want to change the kids' school district.
Right.
Right. So I'll help them research and come up with like I said, a realistic budget.
Right.
And then we go back and forth a couple times. There might be things like, oh, I forgot about this,
Yeah.
or hey, this is a little too low. We need to bump it up because the kids and I need to go to counseling. Right. So things like that come up. But I really work to come up with a realistic budget, and I take as much time as needed.
Well, can I get the penthouse in Buckhead
No.
while I'm getting a divorce? I mean, my husband is going to pay alimony anyway.
Yeah.
Do you have those clients that come in with unrealistic expectations? And
Absolutely.
if so, how do you deal with those? Because I can tell you, as a family law attorney, I have what I like to call come to Jesus meetings.
Yep.
And those are just simply reality checks that if you have been married for 3 years, the likelihood of you getting alimony may be a little slim because you all haven't been married long enough.
Right.
That's one thing that the court takes into consideration is the length of marriage. So when you get someone that has lived in a very rural county and they're demanding 2/3 of the husband's paycheck because they're hurt, they're getting their emotions involved. How do you get them to walk through that?
You call it come to Jesus. I call it tough love.
Same difference.
Yep, same. So I just basically, I've been told that I'm like a velvet hammer, right? So I will explain things to people, and all of a sudden, I'm basically putting that mirror in front of them and saying, okay, let's really take a nice hard look at this. So I just have those tough conversations, and I have to, and I really try to do it because I've been through divorce.
Right.
I really try to do it with love and compassion, like you said earlier, your compassion, and just be honest with them. And this is not going to work, and you can't realistically expect to live in a penthouse in Buckhead.
Right. I like that velvet hammer. It reminds me of something hard but soft.
Yeah.
And you get the tough love, the best of both worlds. What we have to do with our children, and we have to do it at times that people are most vulnerable.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it kind of difficult sometimes, because when you've been told, especially if you don't want the divorce,
Right.
when you've been told that I want to proceed, or the spouse wants to proceed in a divorce, and Georgia is a no-fault state. Anybody can get a divorce for any reason. And now I have been a loyal spouse to you for the last 23 years. And now I have to figure out my new normal. That's hard.
Yeah, it's very hard.
That's hard.
And I try to give them hope. And most of the time, it's going to be the woman that I'm talking with, because they're the ones who have kind of put their career aside
Right.
to raise the kids. Most time, not always. I've
Right,
had some
right,
other situations.
right.
So I really just try to let them know there is a light at the end of the tunnel, that it's not going to be easy. And you may never know the reason that you're going through this divorce, especially if they didn't want it. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and you will probably be in a better place a few years from now than you are right now.
And I agree. I think one of the things I always remind clients is that you're in the box. The best thing you can do is get a team that's on the outside that can hold your hand, because you can't see right now.
Right.
So how do you play a role in the divorce process with attorneys? What assistance do you provide them?
So what I like to do is, like I mentioned earlier, is I like to have the couples, when they're contemplating divorce, come to me first before they file for divorce. And then I work on the reports that we mentioned, the marital division of property, the budget, the alimony. And then once we're at a good point and we've come up with something they both can agree upon, right? I'll put together a list of what I call talking points for them to go meet with their attorneys. Now, I always suggest to them they get a settlement-minded attorney involved if they want this to truly stay amicable.
Right. And that makes all the difference.
Yep.
I can tell you now, if you have an attorney that really pushes one side to say, well, you could get this, or a judge may award you this. That is fine too, but you have to realize that you don't live the life that these people live. And sometimes you will burn more assets trying to prove a point than you would with just bowing out gracefully.
Oh, absolutely. So I always encourage a settlement-minded attorney, and I have a list of them, but you're my top one.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then I'll refer them. And then I always tell them, if you need me involved in a meeting, please don't hesitate. But I tell them, you're each going to have your own attorney. So, and I give them both a list of settlement-minded attorneys. I say, both of you take your reports to your attorney, but one of the attorneys will have to write up the document, the decree. The other attorney will have to review it, and then you guys review it. If you want me to come in at that point and do a post review before you sign, I'm happy to do that, just to make sure all the financial lingo is correct, the tax implications and who's getting what. And then if you both agree and I've looked at it, you sign off. That attorney just takes it to the judge signs off, and it saved you a lot of money,
A lot of money.
a lot of time, and a lot of heartache and headache.
And it allows you to move on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes people just need to start to heal. It's very difficult to heal when you're faced with the same thing over and over every single day. Do you know the average cost of a divorce nowadays?
I do not.
So what I'm seeing is, if you have a divorce with custody, clients are spending, it can be close to $80,000
Wow.
when there's a custody battle.
Wow.
What can people do with $80,000 with a good financial advisor?
Oh, a lot.
And I try to remind my clients, be a good steward of your own funds. Is this a battle or a war? Because some battles don't have to be fought. They really don't. It breaks my heart when I have a client that has $60,000 in a savings account, and they're telling me on the first day that I meet them, the plans that they had with the $60,000. This is for my children when they go off to college, or I want to be able to give this to my daughter as a down payment on her house when she gets married. And then by the time the case is over, it's gone.
Yeah.
It's gone.
It's very sad.
It's very, very sad. So when you have someone that comes to you and you see everything that they have, what do you advise them about how they can preserve it without blowing through it, going through a divorce?
I think to have realistic expectations of how you're going to live after the divorce, as well as trying to encourage them to keep it amicable and not contentious. And sometimes, again, I have to have those tough conversations, the tough love. I have one I'm thinking about in particular, lives in a nice house, very large house, but may have to downsize to like a one bedroom right now, has a couple kids. And I'm like, that, just think of it as a transition.
Right.
It's not your forever.
Right.
It's your transition until she's been a stay-at-home mom, until you get yourself back on your feet. You have your earning capacity, back again, and you know how you're going to have, your children taken care of. I said, but it's just a transition.
I like to say a setback for a setup.
There you go. I like that.
Yeah. It's a little setback, but it's setting you up for something greater.
Yes.
And if you would just be patient, a little temporary sacrifice and maybe activities and travel and how you are maybe accustomed to living, you'll get back there.
Yep. You may have to give up the manicures.
Yeah. Oh, God, not the manicure. The manicures cannot go. But realistically, when you're in those times, especially when you have children, a lot of times you do want to self-sacrifice. If I have to give up a manicure to be able to keep my son in soccer, then that's what I do.
Right.
Because sometimes people forget that life still goes on. Children don't understand financial hardship. They don't understand it. Now, they have to learn it. That's a part of teaching budgeting early.
Yeah.
But when they're going through things such as a divorce, you want to keep as much normal for them as possible.
Yep. Absolutely.
How do you think when you get a person that comes in Not how do you think, but is there anybody where you look at them and you say you don't need me?
Well, I have had a couple that have called. Well, this wife has called, and we've done a Zoom, and I've kind of gathered her information, and I can tell. Or another situation is that I've met with a couple on Zoom, and you can just read the body language.
Yeah.
Right? One of them's not interested in doing this amicably. So those are the ones I just say, I can't help you, because if I can't get the financial documents that I need,
Right.
to really analyze your overall financial situation and give you the best division of property and marital property, then I'm not the person for you. You're going to have to, unfortunately, I have to refer you to an attorney that may end up taking you and your husband to court.
Right.
So.
Now, what about our audience members who feel like I don't even have enough to need a financial planner? I don't have retirements, and I don't have, because we get that a lot, right?
Oh, yeah.
We have people that say, oh, I'm not this person that I don't even have $5,000 in my savings account.
Yep.
Would you still recommend to them to meet with a financial planner before going through a divorce?
Oh, absolutely. So everybody needs a financial planner. And for me personally, this is my personal mission and how I started in the business, is if you come to me, I do a complimentary consult, and if you come to me and we meet for an hour and you walk away and you have at least learned something that can help you in your financial journey, then I've done my job. So no obligation. And I'm really big on education.
Yeah.
I
And
think
you do a good job of it.
Thank you.
Because you've used terms and I didn't know what they meant. but the way you described it, I said, oh, well, that makes sense.
Yeah. So I'm just really big on giving. I'm a giver by nature, educating people. And if it works, it works. I'm happy to help. But if it doesn't, that's fine too. You know, if you got something out of it, then I did my job.
Now, how many people do you actually get that do not have a budget?
Oh, almost everybody. Well, maybe not everybody. Let's say how many people, probably 75% do not have a budget. They just the money goes in the bank account, the expenses go out during the month, and they know what they have at the end of the month, and that's really it. No budget.
How important is that budget? Now, not only in just day-to-day life, but especially when you're having a life-changing event, such as a divorce.
Well, you need to have a handle on what you guys are currently spending first. And then that kind of just carries over to what your post-divorce budget's going to look like, or some of it does, obviously. So if you're living in a house, you have a mortgage payment, and then you're going to rent, well, you still have to have some type of cost of living, right? It might be a little different. The mortgage might be higher, the rent might be less, or it could be the opposite, depending if you had a good interest rate on your mortgage.
Right.
But you need to know what you're spending now. You need to know where the money's going. I have so many people come in and I have them do a monthly spending, and most people do not like to do it.
The reality check.
Yeah, they don't like it. And 9 times out of 10, the dining out or entertainment is way out of whack. I mean, way high. And it's just eye-opening to people. They're like, wow, we spend over $1,000 dining out a month? Well, yeah, So what do we need to do? We need to back that off a little bit. Well, especially if you're going to be a one income
household, yeah.
So you really can't be doing that.
I mean, the conversations that you probably have to have in going through a spending analysis, if I could only be a fly on the wall.
Yeah.
But because I think, especially in a day and age where we have cards.
Yep.
And it's so easy to swipe.
Yep.
And you're not looking at amounts. I think it may have been a little easier when people wrote checks.
Absolutely.
Because then you had some type of rolling balance you can always look at. But now
It's gone.
it's gone.
Yeah. And it's very easy to spend.
Yeah. And then you're transitioning over into credit. So when you're doing your financial plan for couples, what are you seeing debt-wise, and how are you suggesting that debt is divided? If I say, well, I want my husband to be responsible for half of my Victoria's Secret credit card, How are you walking them through that process?
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
So I would say for credit cards, I think it needs to be split 50-50. I do think that. But when you're looking, and again, I'm kind of going to circle back a little bit to the tax implications of the debt, right? So if you're looking at, like, say a mortgage, you're going to take on a mortgage, and one spouse is going to keep the house and take the mortgage over, right? And then the other spouse has said, well, I'll take these credit cards, and I'll pay these off, and that'll kind of equal out. Well, it doesn't necessarily equal out from a tax perspective, because credit cards, you get no tax benefit from paying interest on those. A mortgage, you do, potentially do. Depends if you itemize or standard deduction, right? So they're a little different that way. But I try to split them up as evenly as possible, considering the tax.
That is Victoria's Secret.
Well, he might have something.
He may have gotten a benefit from that card. I think that is a perfect legal argument. Your Honor, he got a benefit from my Victoria's Secret card. He should be responsible for it. That is true.
Yeah.
I get the same types of arguments when it comes to student loans, where they say, well, I only went back to school because my spouse told me to, or they said that they would help me with the debt and things of that nature. And now I'm getting divorced. What do I do with those student loans? And how courts are treating them is very different from how a financial planner may treat it.
Right.
So as a financial planner, is that something that you're saying, okay, it's a loan during the marriage, my suggestion would be each take half of it?
Probably not with a student loan.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that person made the decision to go back to school.
Yeah.
And the spouse may have been encouraging them, may have told them they need to, but you still made that choice to do it. So I'm not quite as apt to split the student loans as I am the credit cards, because the credit cards are kind of difficult because they are just so commingled, right? You don't know, groceries could be on there, a trip could be on there, a beach trip, Victoria's Secrets, sporting goods, So, but the student loan is, to me, it's specific to the person.
Right.
So,
and that's kind of how the courts are treating it too.
Are they?
Yeah, that's pretty much what they're doing. I have been practicing 12 years and I have not seen a judge make another or the other spouse be responsible for that spouse student loan.
Okay.
And even if I was the one that said, go back, I'll help you, even if I made some promises, the rationale behind that is most courts are saying you receive the benefit from it and you will continue to receive the benefit from it.
Right.
So I'm not going to force the other side to make, take your half of it and things of that nature. So there are a few things that you as a financial planner kind of carve out. And do you take that into consideration on the budget side? If someone may have a higher monthly payout because they are paying things like student loans?
I do, yes.
Okay.
So I do factor that into the budget. And when I'm coming up with the initial alimony amount that I suggest they start with, I always say it's a negotiating tool, the alimony. Obviously, you know that as an attorney. So I'll tell them, this is your marital division of property. This is the way I think it should go. This is your budget. But the alimony is a starting point, right, for negotiation purposes. So it's your negotiation tool.
Now, you have what I call, I guess, a phrase that you've coined that I absolutely love, suddenly single.
Yes.
How did that come about? Where did you get that from?
I don't even know. I mean,
I don't know. Well, I love it.
Well, I guess I was kind of blindsided with my whole divorce. I had no idea what was happening. And so I think it was just so sudden. And then all of a sudden, and my divorce went pretty quickly as well. Like I said, we did it amicably. Even though I was blindsided, I decided as a mother that I was not going to put my children through any more than what they had to go through, because it's already tough on the kids, when parents are living in separate houses. So I just decided I was going to make it as smooth and quick as possible. But I was also very smart. I wanted to make sure that, I got my fair share to be able to get myself back on my feet and my earning ability back. So suddenly single, that's what happened to me. And I actually wrote a book. So I did not call it Suddenly Single, though. I called it Unforeseen Exit.
Okay.
Because it's kind of a wordsmith on Suddenly Single. But Unforeseen Exit because, again, I was blindsided and the marriage was ending or I had to exit. So.
Awesome. So unforeseen exit. When you find yourself facing a divorce and suddenly single.
Yes.
That is awesome. Now, is it geared more to those women, men? Is it for everybody? Tell me a little bit about your book.
So it started out, I wanted to write a financial book, like I told you earlier on, to help women financially going through divorce, because most women, not all, don't know what they have financially and have really just kind of acquiesced to the husband to let him handle all of it. Right. So that was the initial intention of this book, was to help women financially. As I started writing, I came upon like a writer's block.
Yeah.
And I was talking with a good friend of mine. She said, just write. Yeah. So I just started writing. And it ended up really being my story, what I went through, how I got to where I was in my marriage, and what I went through the marriage and through the divorce, and then after. But inside the book, I do have financial tips in each chapter to kind of help you along the way, like keep your resume up to date, know what you have, make copies of your financial documents, pull your credit report every once in a while, take a look at that. So there's various financial tips in this book, as well as I did some interviews with divorce attorneys and other women who have gone through divorce. So I put their kind of 2 cents in there as well. Again, to let it's primarily women.
Yeah.
To let the women know that they're not alone.
Right.
That others have gone through this. They've made it through successfully. And there is a light at the end of the tunnel.
And here's the blueprint of how you can do it too.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Yeah.
Now, where can that book be found?
On Amazon.
Okay.
Yep. And just look up Unforeseen Exit on Amazon and $9.99. What a bargain.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on in her court today, telling our audience how, as a financial planner, you can assist those that are finding themselves becoming suddenly single.
Yes.
By choice or by force.
Yep.
And how the tips and tricks that they can do to help get them through that process.
Absolutely.
I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Abricia.
Thank
It was
you,
my
Keli.
pleasure.
Absolutely. Well, that's another episode of Order in Her Court, where family law meets compassion, clarity, and straight talk. I look forward to speaking with you all next time.